When I woke up 2 days ago, this is all I heard.
The Jeffrey Epstein emails that are coming out look really bad for Donald Trump. Trump is all over those emails, and he's all over them not as a casual, distant acquaintance of Jeffrey Epstein, but he's in there accused of specific things that are really, really bad.
Democrats recently released emails from Jeffrey Epstein, as well as emails between Jeffrey Epstein and journalist Michael Wolff, which they said proves Donald Trump was engaged in untoward activity, and that is an understatement.
And then I watched the View and saw Sonny Hostin say the emails actually are helpful to Trump.
So he knew about the girls, allegedly, and asked Ghislaine to stop. That is actually something that is helpful to him, that he asked her to stop whatever was going on.
All right, so let me give you the emails and let you decide what it means for yourself. Okay, so we have all these emails, but it's the interpretation of what these emails mean in the larger picture that's getting everybody worked up. So as you know, I like to go directly to the source to get the information. So let's talk about the emails and how these emails were obtained.
These are records that the department, or rather the House Oversight Committee, subpoenaed from the Epstein estate. Reams, thousands of pages worth, released this morning by Democrats on that panel, several mentioning President Trump by name.
So as you just heard, Democrats and Republicans subpoenaed Epstein's estate as a backdoor because the Justice Department already has those emails. But obviously the Justice Department doesn't want to give those emails over, so they essentially went around them and went to the source, which was Epstein's estate, and got all these emails. Now, you know how the emails were obtained. Next step is, let's actually read each individual email.
Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell. This is one from April 2nd, 2011, and in this email, Jeffrey Epstein writes to Ghislaine Maxwell and says, quote, "I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. There's a name that's redacted, which the House Oversight Committee has said is a victim of Jeffrey Epstein's. Obviously, we have not been able to independently confirm that because her name is redacted from this email. But they say redacted spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned, police chief, etc. I'm 75% there." Ghislaine Maxwell responds to that email, John, and says, quote, "I have been thinking about that."
Now, here's where I have to pause it because there's some spin involved in this. See where it says victim? Well, we actually know who that person is. Her name is Virginia Giuffre, and she's also known as Virginia Roberts. Now, because I am a insane maniac and actually went and looked at the 20,000 stupid documents they released, I found that even though they redacted Virginia Roberts or Virginia Giuffre's name in these emails, they sure didn't redact it in all the other spots that her name appeared. Now, obviously, because you guys don't believe me, I have the receipts. So here are 2 pages from the 23,000 documents that were dropped. One on the left is a redacted version, and as you can see, it's House Oversight document number 010480. Then just a few pages later at 010488, they have the same page, totally unredacted. And as you can see, it has Virginia Giuffre's picture, it has her name all over the place. So it's clear that they only redacted her name in some places and left it for all to see in some other places. Now you may be saying, well, Nate, why is this even important? Who cares? Well, obviously, Virginia Giuffre was a victim of Epstein, so yeah, she was a victim. It says right there in the email, victim. But this is where the political spin gets a little crazy because Virginia Giuffre specifically said multiple times under oath and even in her book that she recently wrote that yes, she spent time with Donald Trump, but nothing happened. It was nothing sexual, nothing like that. They just hung out.
A lot of people think he's not releasing the files because he's in them. And she's saying, at least when it comes to her, he's not. He wasn't involved at all. I think that's a big surprise to a lot of people. Is that the reaction you're getting, that Trump is cleared as far as Virginia's concerned?
I've definitely gotten that reaction. I mean, when we announced the book, we made it clear that Trump was not implicated. Again, as you point out, Virginia was in the Epstein-Maxwell orbit for about 24 months, a little longer. And so she only knows about that period. But in that period, she didn't see Trump in any sort of compromising position. She didn't see him abuse anyone. And in fact, remember, she is procured by Ghislaine Maxwell. She is approached by this posh British woman with a beautiful outfit, beautiful handbag at Mar-a-Lago Spa, where she is working as a $9 an hour towel girl in the Mar-a-Lago Club, which obviously Trump still owns. So she knew Donald Trump because she worked there. She thought she was honored to work there. It was a beautiful place. And she met him several times because her father also worked there and introduced him to her. He said, "Do you babysit?" She said yes. He gave her, he had her babysit for some of her friends when they visited the club. So she had fond memories of him from her teenagehood. And then I was there in Australia with her in October, right before the presidential election. And here was this former president running for president again, partly on the plank that he was going to release the Epstein files. And she felt very validated by that. Remember, these women have been called liars, sluts, whores for a long time, for many years since they've come forward. And they shouldn't be believed. They shouldn't be believed. And here was a man, a former president, somebody who she hoped would be president again, saying, "I'm validating you. This is wrong. These files should be public. We should make them public." So she was absolutely, galvanized by that. She felt very, very happy about it and hoped that he would win. And he did.
Now, Virginia Giuffre is also the person who got Prince Andrew thrown out of the royal family when she claimed that she was trafficked to him when she was underage. But then she also made some allegations against attorney Andrew Dershowitz and then retracted those claims. Now, the only reason I'm telling you all that is so you can be able to assess her credibility. If you believe what she says when she says nothing happened between me and Trump, nothing happened between me and Dersh, but something happened between me and Prince Andrew. Now, with all that in mind, let's move to email number 2.
And this is from Michael Wolff, the author. He wrote to Epstein. This is when Trump was running for the nomination in December 15th of 2015. He writes, "I hear CNN planning to ask Trump tonight about his relationship with you, either on air or in the scrum afterward." And then Epstein responds a couple hours later, "If we were able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it should be?" And then Michael Wolff responds to him on 12/16, the next day, "I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the house, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you. Or if it really looks like he could win, you could save him, generating a debt. Of course, it is possible that when asked, he'll say Jeffrey is a great guy and has gotten a raw deal and is a victim of political correctness, which is to be outlawed in a Trump regime."
So I'm going to let you guys figure out how you feel about email number 2. But this third email is what's causing people to lose their mind.
January 2019 email where Epstein corresponds with author Michael Wolff less than 6 months before the financier would be charged again, this time with sex trafficking of minors. Discussing President Trump's repeated claim he kicked Epstein out of his Palm Beach club, Epstein writing, "Trump said he asked me to resign, never a member ever. Of course, he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop."
All right, so everybody has a little background here. Remember, Virginia Giuffre used to work for Trump for $9 an hour as a towel girl. Trump finds out that not only Giuffre, but a whole bunch of other of his staff are being poached by Epstein and says, "Hey, you're poaching all my girls. I want you guys to stop."
He took people, and because he took people, I said, "Don't do it anymore. They work for me." And he took, beyond that, he took some others. And once he did that, that was the end of him. I didn't like when they steal people. I don't like it.
Now, even Sonny from The View had to come to Trump's defense and say, well, hold on. If this is true, no matter how you read it, this is actually helpful.
From Jeffrey Epstein to Michael Wolff says, victim Mar-a-Lago. Then it's blacked out. It says, Trump said he asked me to resign. I was never a member, ever. Of course, he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. So he knew about the girls, allegedly, and asked Ghislaine to stop. That is actually something that is helpful to him, that he asked her to stop whatever was going on, whether it be sex trafficking or abuse,
What he
abuse
asked
of
her
women.
to stop doing was poaching girls who were working in Mar-a-Lago. Remember, Virginia Guthrie had been working at the Mar-a-Lago spa.
But arguably, this could be helpful.
Now, there's another email where Epstein says he gave his girlfriend to Trump, but that woman was in her 20s, so there's nothing underage there.
We start with the first one. This is an email where we have Thomas Landon and Epstein writing back and forth. Epstein writes to Landon, "Would you like photos of Donald and girls in bikinis in my kitchen?" To which Landon says yes, and Epstein says Hawaiian tropic girl Lauren Petrella. And later, with a link, says my 20-year-old girlfriend in 93 that after 2 years I gave to Donald.
All right, so do you think these emails prove anything? And to give credit where credit's due, the mainstream media has also come to the conclusion that these emails aren't really decisive. They don't really move the needle in any way.
Trump gets mentioned in these emails quite a lot as well, with one claim that he was at Epstein's house with Virginia Giuffre. Of course, Virginia Giuffre then wrote a book saying that Trump didn't do anything inappropriate when they were together. It's an interesting question, Hannah, that who comes out worse from this? There is an argument which we've had on this program that we don't know a lot more about Trump, for example, than we did before, and this is no worse for him than it was before this.
All right, so there are more emails coming out. There's a lot more context, but I just want to make it very clear. There are a lot of people out there screaming these emails are the end all be all, and they are just not that. I'm also going to make it very clear. I am very, very, very unhappy, skeptical, and I believe the Trump administration is covering up the Epstein files. I don't know if it's because Trump is in them, which he obviously is, or it's because of some other issue. But there is a massive cover-up, and this cover-up has been happening since the Biden administration, and now it's just continuing on in the Trump administration. My whole thing is release everything and let the chips fall where they may. So, with that being said, tell me where I'm wrong in the comments section. My name is Nate the Lawyer. I'm out. Peace.